The snow was falling sideways the night he said it, the kind of cold that slips through coats and settles deep in your bones. She didn't even look up at first. Everyone else who passed her that Christmas night at the bus stop had already said enough with their eyes: pity, discomfort, hurry. Then the voice came again, low but steady, carrying something she hadn't heard in a long time. Come with me. When she finally looked up, she saw the man standing there wasn't smiling, wasn't begging her to trust him. He was simply waiting, as if he already knew the answer would change all of their lives. Before I take you back to how a widow, her 2 children, and a broken ex-Navy SEAL ended up under a flickering streetlight on Christmas night, do me a small favor. If you believe stories can still restore faith, tap like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps stories like this reach the people who need them most, and I promise, you'll want to stay until the very end. Her name was Elena. Christmas used to be her favorite day. Once, it meant cinnamon rolls in the oven, her husband's laugh echoing through the house, and wrapping paper scattered across the living room while the kids fought over toys. That was before the knock on the door 3 years earlier. Before the uniform. Before the words that split her life into a before and an after. Her husband, Mark, had been a firefighter. He never made it home from a warehouse blaze. Since then, Christmas had become something to survive rather than celebrate. This year had been the hardest. Medical bills, rent increases, and a sudden layoff had drained what little savings she had left. The landlord had been patient, until he wasn't. That morning, on Christmas Eve, she packed what she could fit into 2 worn suitcases while her children, Lily who was 8 and Ben who was 5, tried not to cry. She told them it was an adventure. She told them Santa knew where to find them anywhere. But when the door closed behind them, the sound echoed like a final goodbye. By nightfall, the shelter was full. The churches had closed their doors for services. The last bus had already passed. That's how they ended up at the bus stop, huddled together under a broken advertisement sign glowing with a smiling family and the words "Merry Christmas." Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit. Ben's hands were red with cold. Elena kept whispering that everything would be okay, even though she no longer knew if that was true. The man who stopped in front of them had been watching from across the street. His name was Jack Sullivan. He hadn't planned on stopping. He never did. Crowds made him uneasy. Christmas made him worse. Since leaving the Navy SEALs 5 years earlier, he had learned to live quietly, carefully, with ghosts that followed him into every room. His team, his mistakes, the missions that never truly ended. He had come out that night only because his therapist told him isolation was killing him faster than the memories ever could. Jack noticed the kids first. Training never really leaves you, it just changes shape. He saw how Elena positioned herself between the children and the street, how her eyes tracked every passing car, how she flinched when someone laughed too loudly nearby. He recognized that look. He had seen it in villages halfway across the world, people running on empty, surviving minute by minute. He told himself to keep walking. He told himself this wasn't his responsibility. But then Ben sneezed, sharp and small, and Lily pulled her coat tighter around him, giving up warmth she didn't have to spare. Jack stopped. "Come with me," he said, and when Elena's eyes finally met his, she saw scars that weren't just on his face. "You don't belong out here tonight." Every warning bell in her head went off at once. She pulled the kids closer. "We're fine," she said, the light tasting bitter. "We're just waiting." "For what?" Jack asked gently. She didn't answer, because there was no answer that didn't sound like failure. Jack nodded as if she had spoken anyway. He reached into his pocket slowly, deliberately, and pulled out his phone, showing her the lock screen photo of a small house with lights in the windows and a crooked wreath on the door. "I've got a place," he said. "It's warm. There's food. You can stay the night. No strings. If you want to leave in the morning, I'll drive you wherever you need to go." Elena shook her head. "I don't even know you." "That's fair," Jack said. "You don't have to trust me. Trust the cold instead. Trust that your kids don't deserve to sleep out here." The silence stretched. Cars passed. Snow kept falling. Lily looked up at her mother, eyes wide and hopeful in a way that broke Elena's heart. "Mom," she whispered, "I'm really cold." That was the moment. Not Jack's words. Not his offer. Just the simple truth in her daughter's voice. Elena swallowed hard. "One night," she said. "That's all." Jack's house was modest, a small single-story place on the edge of town. It smelled faintly of pine and coffee. There was a tree in the corner, undecorated except for a single string of white lights. Jack admitted he had put it up that morning and didn't know why. He handed the kids blankets, thick and warm, and watched as their shoulders finally relaxed. Elena expected questions. She expected judgment. She expected pity. Instead, Jack made soup, grilled cheese, and hot chocolate without saying much at all. The kids laughed when he burned the first batch of sandwiches. The sound startled him so much he almost dropped the pan. He hadn't heard laughter in his house in years. That night, after the kids fell asleep on the couch, Elena sat at the table, hands wrapped around a mug, and finally let the tears come. She told Jack everything. The fire, the bills, the eviction, the shame. Jack listened the way soldiers listen, fully, without interrupting, without trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. "I lost my wife too," he said quietly when she finished. "Cancer. 10 years ago. I thought if I served long enough, hard enough, I'd outrun the pain. Turns out, you just carry it with you." They sat there in silence, two people who had learned the same lesson the hard way. In the days that followed, one night turned into a week. Jack helped Elena find a short-term apartment. He watched the kids while she went to interviews. Lily decorated his bare tree with paper ornaments she made from old magazines. Ben followed Jack everywhere, asking questions about the Navy and pretending a broom was a rifle. For the first time since leaving the service, Jack slept through the night. But life doesn't change without resistance. When Elena finally found a job and prepared to move out, the fear returned. She didn't want to be a burden. Jack didn't want to be alone again. Neither knew how to say what they were both feeling, that somewhere between soup and snow and quiet conversations, they had become something like a family. On moving day, Elena stood in the doorway, keys in hand, kids waiting in the car. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "For saving us." Jack shook his head. "You saved me too," he said. "I just didn't know I needed it." They hugged, awkward and brief, but heavy with everything left unsaid. Months later, on another cold evening, Elena invited Jack over for dinner. Then another. Then another. Healing didn't happen all at once. It came in small moments, Jack cheering at Lily's school play, Elena learning not to flinch at sirens, Ben calling Jack when he skinned his knee. Love, they learned, wasn't loud or dramatic. It was consistent. It stayed. The next Christmas, snow fell softly outside a different window. The tree was full this time. Laughter filled the room. Jack watched Elena and the kids and felt something settle inside him, something he thought he had lost forever. Purpose. Belonging. Sometimes, miracles don't come wrapped in ribbons. Sometimes they sound like a tired voice on a freezing night saying, "Come with me," and meaning it with everything they have. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that one act of courage can change generations, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter, because somewhere tonight, someone is standing in the cold, waiting for hope to stop and speak.